Today, we have the opportunity and the pleasure to get to know another Triathlon Club president. And today, we actually venture a little outside of the greater Chicagoland area, and we get the pleasure of speaking with the president of the Northwest Indiana Triathletes, Ashley Konwerski. Ashley is their, quote, fearless leader and their club president, and has been racing triathlon since 2017 and has been involved in the club since 2018. She has done it all from sprint triathlon to full Ironman and loves bringing people together through training and sport. She works as a marketing specialist in the automotive aftermarket industry for her day job, and in her spare time, when that exists, enjoys hanging out with her husband and cats, camping, drinking beer, playing PlayStation, and rocking out to Taylor Swift. Don't we all? So today, please welcome our guest, Ashley Konwerski. Okay, and we are so happy to have with us for our next Tri Talk series, and we have a Tri Club president that's a little bit outside of our area here in Chicago, but we had a great opportunity to meet each other at the Leon's Triathlon, and that is Ashley Konwerski. Ashley, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, since we had a little bit of an audio snafu when we tried to do our first interview at the end of Leon's Triathlon. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Brian. I'm looking forward to unpacking more about triathlon with you.
Excellent. We love doing that. So for those listening, I got a chance to meet Ashley and meet several of her club members at the end of the Leon's Triathlon just a few weeks ago. And we had this great, wonderful, energetic, enthusiastic interview. And when I came back into doing the edits to do the race recap from that event, all of that great interview had wonderful video quality, absolutely no sound. So I felt it was my duty to reach back out to Ashley and to bring her onto the YouTube channel, our podcast, to be able to hopefully, as best she can, which I'm sure she's going to be great, and bring back that same energy to tell us more about her club and a little bit about their involvement in our wonderful sport of triathlon. And since you guys are in Northwest Indiana, you are part of our Midwest Tri Community, and we see you. And I'm sure you guys participate in a lot of our races all throughout here in the Midwest. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but figured to be the least I could do was to be able to bring you back on, tell us a little bit more about your club, since we didn't get a chance to hear all of y'all's great story from that race recap at Leon's. So with that being said, again, thank you for being here. We got a little bit of your bio on our introduction before the interview started. But let's just still take a little bit of time to get to know you a little bit more. So Ashley, tell us where you're from and how you got into triathlon.
The medium length story, so I don't bore everybody with my entire life history, is I was born and raised in the state of Ohio. So I'm definitely a Midwest gal. I moved to Illinois to Lisle, Illinois in 2012. And I got married to my husband, Nick Konwerski, in 2015, and we moved to Munster, Indiana in 2016. And it was around 2017 when my husband, who's always been the more athletic of the two of us, if you can believe it, started venturing into the sport of triathlon, showing interest. I kind of thought he was crazy at the time. And at that point, I'd only really done a couple of 5Ks, but he had done marathons and half marathons and longer running distance races. And then I had, to be a good partner to him, and also work on my own personal health, started doing the shorter distance running races too, like 5Ks. And then his very first triathlon was Leon's in 2017. And you'll hear that a lot from athletes in the area. It's an earlier season race near Chicago, and super accessible from the greater Chicagoland area and well into Indiana, South Bend, and even down to Indianapolis. So I came and spectated it, and I just was looking. I remember, and I tell this story often, but I remember looking around and seeing the kind of people that do triathlon, all ages, men and women, all sizes. And specifically at Leon's, I remember watching the para athletes exiting the water and like literally their aides standing at the water's edge with their limbs. Like, here's your leg, to put on as you're getting out of the water. And I'm like, I mean, not to compare myself there, but like I'm an able-bodied female in my 20s at that point, and I'm like, if they can do it, like I can do this.
Yeah.
So I remember because triathlon, it's like this crazy, inaccessible sport to people outside of it. But then as soon as you see it in person, it becomes possible. Like I could do that. I don't have to be the best. I just show up and do it. And that's still like to this day my message is like you don't have to be the best or fastest to get out there. Because so many people think it's just like this crazy athletic, uber athletic sport out there.
Right.
So then that fall I did my first one. So Leon's is in June, and then I was like, I'm gonna do this. I had 3 months to train for East Grand Rapids Triathlon at Rhodes McKee Lake, and I did my first sprint triathlon that September. And then from then on, I was hooked. And I've just engrossed myself in the sport. And I think for a lot of people, triathlon can become a lifestyle. And
100%.
There's definitely a balance to it. And I've seen all ranges of that because I am heavily involved in the club. And so the rest is history from there on. When I started doing more triathlon in this area is when I got connected with the club and the other athletes, and it really became a community at that point. Like these are my friends now. My best friends who are members of the club now because they understand me. A lot of my friends who are my neighbors or I grew up with, I tell them about this, they just get it. And I think a lot of triathletes can probably relate to that too. So I wanted to throw that out there. Does that answer
absolutely. Very much so. And so when you made the decision and you were, okay, I love it. I want to do this. You sign up for that first race. Was running the discipline that you were most confident in since you had done a couple 5Ks? Like what was your most confident discipline?
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about which discipline may have been the biggest challenge for you that you felt at the time that you had to overcome. So you felt that much more confident going into that first race.
That's a great question. And actually one I almost touched on in my little spiel there, but running was always the biggest challenge for me, to be quite honest.
Okay.
Because when my husband even asked me after he had done Leon's and I declared myself that I was going to do it, he goes, well, what's your biggest fear? And I said, well, it's the running part, because I knew how hard running was. It's a full body, like knees, ankles, like you really, and it's at the end too. So you have to do these other things first and then you have to run afterwards. And I wasn't fast. I mean, I was like a 10 and a half, 11 minute pace average. And that's when I'd only been running. So to put it at the end was like, well, can I even finish a 5K after swimming and biking? I grew up in like small town Ohio. So I lived on my bike. That was how we got from point A to point B a lot.
Oh, sure.
And I was on like 55 mile per hour state routes riding my bike. So that didn't really scare me. I know a lot of people get nervous, Nelly on the bike. And the swimming, like I live in the Great Lakes. So when we went on vacation or anywhere, it would be to Lake Erie or Lake Michigan. And I was always swimming in open water. So that didn't scare me or bother me either. Granted, I wasn't super fast at either of the sports, but I think that there are things when you do when you are kids that it's like riding a bike, roller skating, swimming, like those are things that are ingrained into you as a child. And I also think that like competitive swimmers, especially, like it's almost like learning a foreign language. the younger you are when you start it, the more proficient you are as an adult. And
Sure.
as an adult, you just cannot catch up to those people who have been doing it since they were kids. You know what I mean? Like,
Of course.
unless you just are dedicated to the sport. And I don't mean to put down anybody that's putting in that time and effort. My husband has had a couple of different coaches, and he's invested a lot of money in getting faster. And it's really your whole life. If you want to compete, even at your age group, especially as a male,
Yeah.
in their 30s and 40s, even into their 50s, you're training 40 hours a week, even for short distance races, just because you have to condition your body to get faster and develop
I
all
mean,
those.
it's legitimately like it's a little bit more than just another part-time job. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost an entirely other full-time job.
Yeah.
I mean, not just for the training, but also just as we're kind of talk about, especially if you're part of a club and that's part of your community. It's a social, it's the nutritional, like all of those things that you add to it. I mean, it is a hourly, daily routine.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget the mental aspect either. I feel like people always give percentages of, fitness, nutrition, and mental. Like those are kind of the three categories in triathlon. And ask me on any given day and my percentages of what it takes change. But I just was amazed at how as in my husband, was training to get faster and compete at an Olympic distance level.
Oh
So
yeah.
we're not talking Ironman here where he's going out on 6-hour bike rides, but every day he's doing like 2 or 3 different training sports. Like I'm doing swimming and biking and running today, and I'm doing strength and biking and swimming. Like it was 3 training sessions a day. Even
Yeah.
though they were shorter, it was still like an hour and a half to 2 hours every single day, morning and afternoon. This is a lot for
Uh-huh.
a hobby, you know. Anyway,
Now, when you first did your, or when you did your first race, was it a little bit of self-discovery, self-coaching? Was it a little bit of your husband jumping in and helping out and doing a little bit of
yeah.
coaching himself, or at least giving advice?
I am extremely fortunate that I was not alone in this sport in my household, and I really got to learn from a lot of his mistakes early on, especially when it came to purchasing any upgrades to your bike
Oh,
or, like investing in running shoes,
man, you lucked out.
plans. Yeah. Because he would like be like, "Oh, I got this thing," and then I realized I didn't need it, or B, didn't need to spend that much money on it, or that there's a better option than this way to go. And obviously that's very personal, and I don't want to discount what certain people are doing or what they've been doing for years and years. I have a friend in the club who's been doing triathlon for 20 plus years, and he doesn't like to ride his bike outside or inside at all. Like
Yeah, sure.
he doesn't believe in trainers, like won't get on Zwift, won't train over the winter. And as soon as it's like 35, 40 degrees, he's outside.
If it's bearable enough to get
Yeah.
outdoors, he's outside. Yeah.
And I could not function in the summertime if I didn't constantly ride my bike over the winter. Same goes for like power. Power is a huge, like, diversifying topic. Like I preach the power, the gospel of power, and people, who have been doing the sport for 20 plus years are like power schmower. Like it's all about speed, you know? So, and then back to your original question of like, how did I get started, or, what did I learn early on, was that for me specifically, I like to have a plan, like a training plan, or at least something that I can use to hold myself accountable. And that's where I learned about training peaks and 80/20 endurance, which is my preferred line of training plans because they're
Okay.
flexible.
Yep.
You can choose the time you want to spend, how you want to measure your zones. And then because I pay for training peaks, I can move those workouts around, fit my schedule. I can edit them if I need to do that. And that's better for me. It's a better investment than paying a coach like $300 a month to give me workouts when what I know works for me is already planned out somewhere and I
Sure.
have more flexibility there too.
No, that's great. And that is something that's a style of training that you continue with to this day.
Yes, I've done it for all distances.
Great.
I actually don't think, I think my very first training plan that I had for that first sprint triathlon was a 12-week easy, like downloadable plan that I just printed out on pieces of paper and checked them off, checked the workouts off. But then as I was getting more into the sport the following year, I decided I was going to do a triathlon a month and I was going to do my first Olympic that June. So I did the Carmel Sprint Triathlon, which doesn't exist anymore. That was
Okay.
in April of 2018. They have like the indoor swim, like in a 50-meter pool that's down by Indianapolis. Then
Cool.
the outdoor bike and run. That was an April race. So I was like, this is a great like ease into the back into the sport over the summer sort of.
And especially for that time of year to be able to like be in a pool, so you're not worried about water temperature, getting out in that sort of like that time of year in the Midwest where you're not quite sure, is it going to be 70 degrees, is it going to be 40 degrees?
40 degrees, and it was chilly. And I wore a bathing suit in the pool because I didn't even have a proper triathlon suit at that point. I'll have to send you some photos from my earlier race days because people see me now and I'm like slick with my wheels on my bike and my tri-suit and like all my gear. But it's taken me, 8 or 6 years to get to collect all that stuff and realize what works for me. But anyway, but then as I continue to ramp up in the sport, you start to collect all the things and learn what works and what doesn't. But back to the Carmel Sprint Triathlon, it was like 40 degrees, 45 degrees that day. So in transition, I'm sitting on my rear, like pulling on like wind pants and like long sleeve jackets, and shoe covers, which are, I don't know, that's not even necessary for a sprint triathlon. Like I just went so overboard because I didn't want to be freezing on the bike. But I still remember for that race specifically, and I think anybody who's done a triathlon in colder weather can identify with the feeling of starting to run when you get off the bike and your feet just feel like bricks. You can't even feel those things.
100%.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that you have said so far that does not translate or that does not relate to anybody that might be listening to our conversation here. Like every little bit, like every experience that you have. I mean, it's amazing how much all of our experiences have some variety of overlap. We've, especially if you've been doing the sport for a number of years, we've had that cold weather try. We've had that, that first experience, jumping in, you're like, I have no idea what's happening. So like, whether you have the ones that are underprepared, the ones that over prepare, everything in between. So that's why, we really are excited to have more of these conversations with more clubs, with more coaches, with more athletes to just hear all their stories and just be able to be entertained and just appreciate and enjoy that. You know what? We've all gone through those same experiences. And, be able to laugh about it and like, man, especially why, here at the end of our conversation today, we'll have that sort of like, what are your top 3 key advice for new triathletes? So for those listening now, we may hear some pieces of advice that may come back to what we're talking about now. So that's great.
One of those pieces of advice I'll just throw in there right now is never try anything new on race day.
It's a great one. That's a tried and true.
That day that I did the Carmel Sprint, I tried riding on clips for the very first time.
Oh, wow. And how did that go?
I crashed my bike in the parking lot. And it was funny because I like got going and I was fine. Like, this is great. And then, you slow down and come to a complete stop right next to your car. And I fell literally against my car, and then the bike slid out from underneath of me, and I just tore up my whole leg before the race started.
It's the weirdest feeling when you do that for the first time. And I knew to be prepared for it because my mother is an avid cyclist, and she's been riding clips for years and years and years. And she told me, Brian, it's not a matter of if, but when. It will happen. So just be prepared for it.
Yeah.
And it was that, and I was here in Chicago when it happened to be the second time, but it was one of those same things where I was pulling up to a group of riders and I just could not unclip fast enough. And
Yeah.
it almost feels like it's slow motion. You're just like,
It
oh,
does.
we're going now. What do I do? I guess I just stay here.
Yeah. Did you see that Gordon Ramsay got into a bad bike accident this past weekend?
I did not.
Did you know that he was an Ironman?
I did know that. Yes.
Okay, yeah, he's a triathlete, and I follow him on TikTok. Am I blurry? I just got like a notification that
Oh,
okay.
there we go.
And um, Gordon Ramsay got into a bike accident over the weekend, and he made like a PSA on TikTok to like please make sure you wear your helmet. Like as many of you know, I'm like an Ironman or like triathlete, cyclist, whatever. And
Yeah.
he lifted up his shirt, and there's like his whole side is just purple, like
Yikes.
from that accident. Like you can't tell him his arms or face or anything, you know, the money makers, but
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, again, another sort of reiterated PSA to everybody. Please wear your helmet when you're out cycling, even if it's in short distance, if you're just a small commute, going from home to work, whatever that may be, make sure you wear the helmets. And I know for those of us that are in the Chicago area where you're never quite sure what's going to pop out the next corner, a pedestrian, a car,
yeah,
it's really, really important. So I'm glad he did that. It sucks that he got into an accident, but sometimes those things
he's
happen.
gonna
But
be
if you're at least you're protected, a bad day doesn't turn into the worst day.
yeah.
So thank you for that. So it's great knowing a little bit about you and great to know about your history, your backstory, how you got into this, hearing great stories that we've all kind of experienced or have gone through. But
Mhm.
let's get to know a little bit more about your club. So I, again, had a chance to see and meet some of your members at the end of Leon's last week. Everybody seemed to be just really enjoying themselves, enjoying each other, and I think that's a great mark of a great club, right? That people get to connect and experience things together, experience this crazy world of triathlon together, share experiences, and continue to socialize and hang out before races, after races, during the weekends, in group rides or runs or anything that you guys may do together. But tell us a little bit more about y'all's club dynamics and what you feel makes your club unique. And just sort of give us a little overview of who you guys are and the type of athletes and the people that encompass your program.
Yeah. The biggest distinction I want to make sure people understand here is that it is a club. It's not a team.
Okay.
I've been part of both in my life, in my triathlon life, so far, and teams always felt very much more serious
Okay.
to
Yeah.
me. Like we are all training for the same thing, or just like we're all training to get faster or represent a brand. Like I was on the Wadi Inc. Hit squad once upon a time, like
Yeah.
similar to Zoot today, that are like clothing brand centered or like something specific like that. Which was cool because I learned a lot about people from all over the country and you can connect with other triathletes from all over the place.
Sure.
But I think, triathlon, just think about your day, like your life. I want to go for a bike ride this afternoon. Am I going to be able to reach out to someone in Seattle, Washington to, on short notice to fly out here and hop on a quick bike ride with me this afternoon? Like, no. So unless your preference is training alone, like my husband is like that. He like we'll occasionally train together. You'd think we would, considering we are both, triathletes, and we're not dissimilar in speed or pace these days. It's more or less just our own schedules, when we like to train, what we're doing that day, and it's just really nice to have like-minded people who live down the street or, maybe one town over that are spontaneous and can join you for like a one-off bike ride or, hey, everybody, like we're going to go open water swim today at 5:30 p.m. here. Like come and join us for that. So that's the kind of culture that I've tried to really instill in the club since I took over. When I first became president, it felt very like everybody was on their own island. And I think that was primarily due to the fact that we didn't really have a Facebook community.
Sure.
Every communication from club leadership came through email. And then the only time you got to see people was at pre-scheduled group trainings or social events, which were maybe one to three things a month.
Okay.
But these days, since I became president or joined the board, I should say, in 2019, I launched our Facebook members only group on Facebook. And that really became the heart of our club because now we have like Medal Mondays and like who's racing this weekend on Fridays and impromptu group training activities, or even just like, hey, I'm going to be here if anybody wants to join me for this run or this ride or whatever. And since that, it's really just kind of taken off. And I'm in sales, or I was in sales, now I'm in marketing, but for a living. And I think with that personality comes a natural extroversion where you just want to feel connected to people. And I made it my mission when I started to know every single member of the club, like who they were when I saw them. I could look at a list and pick out like these people all raced this weekend. This is a member, this is a member, this is a member, this is a member. And then I would recognize them publicly for racing. And now we have a process for that in our board to do that. But all that being said, it's about that local community, having people near you that you can lean on when you're feeling low or keep you motivated if you need that training buddy. And then the race support has just also been really important. We publish a list of club designated races every year where we try to get a tent up, try to have a space where our athletes can come together and commune, eat, drink, relax before or after the race. And that usually included nationals until this year when they moved it to New Jersey from Wisconsin. But all that can be found on our club page on Facebook as well. Our website's not the best. We're actually hoping to move platforms here shortly. So we'll probably have a new website this year. But if anybody's looking for information about our club, check out our Facebook page on Facebook. So it's like the public facing one. And then to become part of our members group, you would just join through our website. We have a $45 annual dues. And right now we're sitting around 110 members, all the way from, Gary to Hammond. We have as far east as New Carlisle, Indiana, which is an Eastern time zone.
Yeah, I'm sure that makes it for interesting.
Yeah, far south too. And I try to make it a priority to connect and introduce new members as they join. So like we have a new member survey that goes out. We take the results of that survey, have a welcome post so that people can put a face to a name. They know where they live. So if there's someone in their area looking for a training buddy, they can reach out.
Right.
And that's just our membership initiatives. We have sponsors. We have our club designated race, or our club hosted race, which I definitely want to talk about a little bit more as well.
Oh, for sure.
But I could go down the rabbit hole in the club and talk for like 5 hours, but I won't do that because I really do it all. I mean, I'm an athlete, I'm a club president and a race director. So, and I love the sport. I think that's really what it comes down to. And people that do the sport and just insofar as they want to join a club around it are special. They're special. It's a special breed of people. Triathletes. I think you'd probably agree with me there, Brian.
Okay, and here we are for part two of our interview with Ashley Konwerski, the president of the Northwest Indiana Triathletes. Unfortunately, what seems to be a growing trend when she and I try to connect and talk shop, we had a little bit of an audio snafu from our previous interview, hence the two parts here. But we were happy to be able to bring Ashley back in because what cut out the last time we did our interview, or I guess technically the first time, we had all this great information about the race event that they are hosting, that they are putting on next month, which is the Indiana state championships for triathlon. And we really wanted to make sure that we gave her a chance to come back on, tell us more about it, and hopefully give a good pitch for why so many of our athletes here in the Midwest should come out and support and participate. So Ashley, thank you again for jumping back on with us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for keeping on me, Brian. The Porte Triathlon is the longest running triathlon in the state of Indiana. I'm so proud, like, to have even been given the opportunity for 2 years in a row now to take on the beauty of this race, because it's so well established in the community, in the triathlon world. And when I say community, I mean like LaPorte, Indiana, their local government, their residents, the people who live there, they get behind the event. And it's because it is a really great venue. The swim is in Stone Lake, which is a nice big lake that's pretty clear, not too many weeds, and it's a straight out and back swim course. And we have a brand new swim course this year. We have beautiful buoys, easy to see, and a nice big triangle Ironman size turn buoy that makes the race super accessible for beginner triathletes. Because the swim is always really nerve-wracking for people, for their first race. I will say that this year it's likely not going to be a wetsuit legal race. We were just there on Sunday for a swim clinic where we had about 20 athletes show up to participate, and the water temperature was 80 degrees. And we're still about 17 days out from race day, and it's not getting any cooler outside. So there is even a slight chance that it could be wetsuits not allowed. So I'm just going to be transparent there. Last year we were right at 79 degrees on race day. And it's been a little bit of a scorcher this year. I imagine we'll be within that range.
So real quick, Ashley, on to that point. So above, I believe it's 83 degrees. That is, wetsuit prohibitive for all athletes. Anything under that, if it is under that threshold, will you still have a wave where wetsuits are optional? They just will not be available to compete in podium or in age group awards. Is that still okay?
And I might even normally be a little more relaxed on those rules, but because it is a USAT sanctioned event and it's specifically the USAT state championship, we really want to be careful about athlete safety and enforcing the fairness across the board. In fact, this will be the first year we have a USA Triathlon official will be at the race.
All right.
Helping us look for and enforce the rules. He'll be out on the bike course and on the run courses looking at drafting penalties and, headphones, people not practicing being safe and following the rules. So we will be publishing those and encouraging people to read them prior to the race day. And we've been very communicative this whole way. Honestly, I don't know how many triathlons in the country are run by triathletes, but this is one of them. And I think that also makes for a unique experience because having done so many triathlons, and I'm sure you can say the same, organization and the athlete focus is super important to the overall experience of the race. I don't want to badmouth any local races, but you can definitely tell when triathlon is more about the money that's made from it for
Sure.
whoever's organizing it, whether it's, a local veteran or military organization, or if it's for some like a good cause still, but not the actual race itself. So because we're a triathlon club organizing a triathlon, all of that, and we're nonprofit, all of the money that's made from the race just goes back into the race for the following year. So any profits that are made just help enhance and grow the race experience. This year, for example, we got that new swim course. We have more clear and visual signage throughout the event, and we even got like a dancing man, like one of those crazy, floppy dancing guys for the beach, so that people can sight on their way back in
Very
on the
nice.
swim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be hard to miss.
Yeah, and it's going to be bright purple. Check out our Facebook page. I made a video about it. I was so excited I couldn't not share. So that's
We will
really
be sure
exciting.
to link that down below in the description.
Oh, yes, definitely. Because Ashley was like a little kid on her birthday when that package came. In addition to that, the bike course is just a nice rolling out and back. It's almost impossible to get lost. And we're going to have volunteers at every single intersection.
Great.
And the roads are closed to traffic 100%. So,
the only race I think I've ever seen that for, Leon's has that for to a certain extent, but
yeah,
in terms of a massive event, the Ironman, the one, and I think the only full distance Ironman that they had in Indiana just a few years ago
Muncie. Yeah.
it was right. It was all blocked off. And I just remember
Wow.
all of my athletes that participated. They were like, that was amazing. It
Yeah.
was hard for us as spectators to try to figure out where to go to watch because everything was shut down. So you had to take back roads everywhere to go find a spot to spectate. But you know what?
Mm-hmm.
If it made for that much of a faster and much more much more fluid, and much more
safe.
enjoyable bike ride for the athletes, then I'm all for it.
Yep, for sure. And there's only one U-turn, and it's at the halfway point. That's another kind of downfall of Leon's that I don't love, is you literally have to do 8 or 9 U-turns on that route, and U-turns are hard, especially for newer athletes. And if the road is narrow,
Naperville up here in the area is also there's some turns, but I believe there's only one major U-turn at the end of the course. It's like a 2-loop for the sprint distance, and but that actually is also closed road. So again, it just makes the whole experience great. You're not worried about the things that we typically are worried about as cyclists, and that is vehicles, like people in cars.
Yeah, or things that if you're trying to be competitive are going to slow you down.
For sure.
Right? So this is a great course for PRs, for qualifying. And because it's a state championship, there are more slots.
Nice.
We did something really cool and special and different this year with age group awards. We're going to be offering medal charms. So they're actually like an attachment. So everybody gets a really badass finisher medal when they finish the finish line. But then if their age group award is actually a charm that clips onto their medal with the event, their place, and their gender and age group that they want.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's in the shape of a maple leaf. I had one on my desk a minute ago, but I just put it away because I didn't want to lose it. So I will definitely send you a link to what that looks like as well, so you can share.
Great.
So and then the last thing I'll say about it, apart from the exactly 3.1 mile run course, which is new this year, in the 43 years that this race has been running, the run course has been 3.4 miles. And last year we couldn't figure out a solution, and this year we did. And the course is almost exactly the same, except for we reversed it out of transition and cut out the extra 0.3 miles they needed to run past transition to the finish line.
Brilliant.
It took a little bit of finagling with the transition area, but we made it work. And so that I know was a kind of a complaint in past years, that especially as, people who are trying to qualify no one wants to run that extra that extra 0.3 miles. So that was
It's always that last 0.3, let me tell you.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So my last point about the triathlon is that last year was our first year that the club actually organized it. Like, I've participated in it every year since 2018. The triathlon is the volunteers. So last year I sent out a survey after the race was over, asking the athletes, like, what was your favorite thing about the whole race? And like 90% of them said the volunteers, just how awesome they were, how supportive they were, because we have so many out there on the course, blocking the roads off and monitoring traffic. They're not just sitting or standing there. They're cheering you on. They're, for the entire bike, for the entire run. So even if the spectators don't necessarily make it everywhere out there, the volunteers are basically like your person and you don't even know them. And this year we got cowbells for them. So
Oh, even better.
I'm really excited to have those noisemakers out there and for our athletes to just feel the appreciation from the volunteers. And it's also returned. The volunteer survey, their favorite thing about the race was the athletes. They're like, everybody was so nice and awesome. And that's really it's such a good feeling event. And because it's a sprint, you get it done in a couple hours and you can go on with your life. You know what I mean?
Ready for your post-race carb load.
Exactly. And we'll have plenty of delicious snacks in the lodge for them after the race.
That's great. And yeah, Ashley, if we get any of these in time by the time we post this interview, for any photos, links, all those kind of things for people to get a better sense of, like, visually of what the race looks like, what it'll entail. If you're able to get the photo of the little maple leaf clip on, that would be great. But if they are starting to hear all this information, and maybe it'll be last minute, but they're like, man, I have been looking for a race to go participate in, or I want one more tune-up before Chicago or the next Ironman that they have coming up. What all areas could they go to find this race to register?
So you can Google LaPorte Triathlon. You can find us on YouTube. Our races, our registration is through Run Sign Up, which I think is not uncommonly used. So most people have accounts already. I also encourage them to follow our club, the organizers of the race, on Facebook, NWI Tri. If they just search NWI Tri on Facebook, it'll pop up. We also have a sizzle reel for the race. So if you are looking to get a feel for the venue, it exists. The sizzle reel was taken last year, obviously. So we have some new logos and things this year, but you can really get a feel for how much fun everybody was having during the event, and what the venue looks like from a high level perspective. So
excellent. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad we were able to bring you back on, hear a little bit more about the LaPorte Triathlon, the Indiana State Championship. So many fun things. A tri made by triathletes, or ran and put together by triathletes. And interestingly enough, I'm starting to hear more about those kind of races. We had the opportunity to go up to Rockford, Illinois on Monday, the site of the first and the brand new 70.3 for Ironman in Rockford, Illinois. And we got to meet some other tri clubs up there. In fact, the tri club, which is the Rock River Multisport, and they also found their niche in creating events, whether it's 5Ks to half marathons to duathlons. So they are another club like yourself that are athletes creating races and hoping to make sure that they provide the best type of experience for the athletes. And I think that's a big deal, where we've done these races and you know what you want to experience and what you want to feel when you're out there, that you feel supported, that you know where to go. There's good directionals, there's good volunteers, there's good supports, all of those things. And it's really great to have athletes and clubs giving back to the sport in this regard. So thank you guys for what you do. And if I may not be necessarily being able to participate in this race this year, it might now be on my calendar for future years.
Yes.
Especially maybe next year. It'll be my sort of more enjoyed celebratory sprint post Ironman Illinois and Rockford.
Wonderful. And I gotta tell you, we are 80% sold out.
That's awesome.
So
that's great.
We got 17 days to go until race day, and we like based on my projections, we will sell out. So if people are waiting for some reason, do not sign up now. Like get your spot, because I don't want to be the bad guy telling you no, because it will be me. I get like it happened last year. I was getting emails race week. Can I please sign up? Can you find room for me? Do you have? And the answer is no. Our venue right now cannot handle more than 300, and you will not get a medal, and you will not be happy. So don't wait. Sign up now, and we only need 10 more volunteers.
So you heard that, Chicagoland and Midwest. Sign up now. It will sell out. Find that great next race, especially it sounds like a fantastic, very awesome sprint distance to participate in, just around the bend in Indiana at Porte. And it's a race put on by athletes, so you should feel very supported. And speaking of support, then if you're also maybe looking to give back to the community and looking for volunteers or looking to a race to volunteer for, here's another opportunity. So we will provide all the available links in the description below so that you can have access to the ability to either race or support our friends down in Northwest Indiana. So I think with that said, Ashley, I know your time is tight today. So thank you so much for coming back on and telling us more about this and giving us an opportunity to really highlight this race. And maybe it's one that wasn't on anyone's radar, but maybe now it is. So hopefully we can send some good quality athletes your way this year.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Brian.
All right. Well, have a great rest of your day. And between now and then, good luck on the race coming up, and good luck. And actually, doesn't sound like you guys need much luck getting those last 20%. But
knock on wood. You never know.
Have a great race, though. We wish you guys all the best. We wish all the best to all the athletes that will be participating, and we can't wait to hear a recap from said race at the end of July.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.